up, movie crew? As promised, I said before Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania hits theaters, I will have reviews up for both Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp. So today's video will be my review / rewatch of Ant-Man and the Wasp. Now, before I get started, if you are new to this channel, my name is Luke, this is Let's Watch a Movie, and if you're in anything cinema and physical media related, you've come to the right place, so hit that subscribe button. Emphasis on hitting that subscribe button. I am this close to 1,000 subscribers. At 1,000 subscribers, there is going to be a Q&A video and a 5 Steelbook giveaway. All right. Let's get started. All right, so Ant-Man and the Wasp is the sequel to Ant-Man. There will be spoilers in this one, so keep that in mind while you are watching this particular video. If you have not seen the ending to Ant-Man, go back and watch Ant-Man, because again, spoilers. Post-credit scene, you see Hope get presented the Wasp outfit from her father, Hank Pym. And this movie takes place after the events of Civil War and during the events of Avengers Infinity War. So for those that are wondering why Ant-Man was not in Infinity War, this movie explains why. So you've now got Scott Lang on house arrest for his part in taking events of Captain America Civil War. So he is currently on house arrest. But Hope and Hank need his help as their lab is getting taken over by an unknown villain that they only know as Ghost. And it involves Hank having to get in touch with an old colleague of his that he does not really see eye to eye with these days, that being Goliath, played by Lawrence Fishburne. Alright. So, overall, it's a good sequel to Ant-Man. And it is cool seeing Evangeline Lilly being front and center and getting to be a part of the action this time instead of her kind of being behind the scenes and telling Scott what to do. She's actually on the field with Scott this time. And also having to help cover up some stuff here and there because there are people that know that Scott Lang is Ant-Man and people are showing up at his house left and right when they realize that, hey, there's a sighting of Ant-Man. How is Scott Lang doing that when he is supposed to be on house arrest? So, overall, the pros of this movie are that it took what worked in the first Ant-Man movie and kept it. Sometimes you need to go with the if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And in this one, you've got the same situational comedy, only in this case, at the end of Ant-Man, they tease a little bit of a relationship between Scott and Hope. As you can tell, Hope feels betrayed by Scott taking part in Civil War, so they're not really on the best terms right now. So there's a little bit of a push and pull going on with them throughout the movie. So you do get actual story progression. You don't just get, hey, now Hope has a suit and we're going to face this throwaway villain. You actually get progression and you get something that makes sense on what you're watching and why you don't see these characters in Infinity War. So that's a good plus. All that stuff was taken into account and it makes sense. Another thing personally that I like, and this is just me nitpicking. If you've seen my reviews before, usually if a movie is like 2.5, 3 hours long, I start complaining about the runtime. Both of these movies are less than 2 hours, and they are able to do everything they need in those 2 hours each. Unfortunately, when it goes to the cons of this, they don't really go into full detail on Scott sneaking out. It's just there's a couple scenes where suddenly you see an ant wearing Scott's ankle bracelet or his tracking monitor. And there's one scene where they do a reverse of a scene from Ant-Man where it's now Scott is rescuing them, which I thought was pretty cool. But there's a couple of scenes where they could have done a little bit better of a job explaining some of it. And once again, when you've got them mentioning Hank's previous time as Ant-Man, you're not really... The way they've kind of presented the stories over the years, it's kind of like, how did this stuff happen and no one find out? And one of the things, there's some stuff in there that kind of go into that nitpick on my end. Unfortunately, even though they did kind of do the whole if it ain't broke, don't fix it, the issue here is that some of this stuff feels a little too much of the same. And as we have found out recently, some of the stuff we're not going to get a payoff on. One of the villains in this movie was Ghost, and the actress has since dropped out of whatever the next movie was she was supposed to do, which I think was Thunderbolts. So we're not going to be getting a full-on conclusion to that story. I am curious to see how this takes place after Endgame. But there was a couple of things they definitely could have done better with on the story itself. Does that make it a bad story? No. It was still fun. It was entertaining. The cast and crew for this particular franchise within the MCU know what they're doing. And I just want to point out something else. This isn't really towards the movie. But for anyone that is wondering why I went with the standard 4K over the Steelbook, I just thought this lenticular was freaking awesome, and I liked it more than the Steelbook. So this was one of the times where I did pick this over the Steelbook. I did eventually get the UK Steelbook from, I forget who it was that released it. So there is that. Overall, like I said, it's still a good movie, just not quite as good as Ant-Man in my opinion. The first movie I think is still the better one of the three. It does not take away my hype for Quantumania. The events that happen in Endgame also continue to tell what happens with Scott at the end of this movie. Again, this is a spoiler review. It's in the title. You find out that this takes place during the events of Infinity War, and Thanos has snapped Hope and Hank out of existence, leaving Scott in the quantum realm for the whole duration leading up to Endgame, where a mouse just hits a trigger on a van and he comes popping out. That scene in Endgame is actually kind of funny, but it makes sense and it was important to the story for Endgame. Overall, I'm going to have to give this one a 4 out of 5. Still a good movie, just not quite what we got with the first one. And as always, if you are new to this channel, hit that subscribe button. You like what you see, leave a thumbs up. Comment down below. What are your thoughts on Ant-Man and the Wasp? Are you looking forward to Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania? But that's going to do it for this one. Thank you all for watching and tune in next time.